All right, shut up! I just love how quickly the room just goes total silence. It's so great. All right, so easy quiz.
Yeah.
So let's go through this guy. So this is reviewing our functions from last time. So we've created a variable here called myList, and we've set it equal to an initial list with some stuff in it. Okay, what does the remove function do?
Takes away
The first value.
The first three.
The first occurrence of 3.
Yeah.
So after this line, our list will look like that. All right. This isn't outputting anything. I'm just showing you how the list is changing as we're going through. Okay. Go ahead.
So I might have written down for the initial my list as 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Like,
Well, why would you do that?
it's
like saying, I know you wanted me to solve the problem of 3 plus 8, but I actually did 2 times 3. Just
didn't see it right.
So, if you did all the removal stuff and things like that right, I'll try to take that into consideration. All right, so if you were to print out my list after this line, that's what it would look like. Now, what does pop do?
Without a parameter, it'll take away the last.
The last element. So that means we'd be stuck with that after that line. So I don't have to keep editing the whole thing. Now, what does pop given a parameter do?
It takes out the number bucket that's in there.
Okay. Takes out the element at that position in the list. So this will remove bucket 0 from the list, producing for us that list. All right. So this will create a new variable called quiz and start it off at 0. This loop goes through every element of my list. Right now, my list has 3 elements in it, a 2, a 3, and a 4. Each time through, we set quiz equal to whatever quiz is currently equal to plus the value we're looking at. So if quiz starts off at 0, the first time through, 0 plus 2 is what? 2. Second time through, 2 plus 3 is what? 5.
Yeah.
Next time through, 5 plus 4 is 9. So when this loop is complete, quiz holds the value 9.
Good. I didn't feel totally solid on my.
He wrote the Klingon symbol for LOL or something. I was so close.
that was cool.
It looks like a 9 upside down, or like sideways.
With 2 little hashtags.
Well, that's how you use it with English characters.
Oh, that's I guess yeah. If you're using the old Klingon, yeah, that's the weird. Yeah, that's got the. Probably there is. There's probably a Klingon from the original Star Trek and then a next generation version.
Updated version.
All right, questions about this? Go ahead.
I realized from this that 4 plus 5 equals 7.
So you can't add. Did you show me the rest of the?
Yeah.
That would be the funniest mistake. Is you show me all your work, you have up to this, and you even show me how quiz is building up. Like the first time you have, it's 2, and then you have 2 plus 3 is 5, and then finally you have 5 plus 4 is 7.
Is that what you said?
Man, I'll have to amend some of my conversation I had with Pastor Hillenbrand last night.
Wait, what?
What's this?
What did you say?
I said I'll have to amend some of the conversation I had with Pastor Hillenbrand last night. I was mentioning that you're so bright.
You have to bring up 60 gig now.
I was in a car with him for 3 hours yesterday. Kidnapping incident. I was in the trunk. It was a big trunk. No, we went to My wife and I and him and his wife went to a fireside dinner theater thing
Oh, okay.
and saw the show Newsies. It's actually pretty good. I usually hate shows, and I paid attention. But oh man, I had the worst seat. Because my wife usually gets me an aisle seat, so I have a little extra room. But this particular aisle seat was like almost like halfway in like the path where they're coming. You know, they're bringing stuff. If you've ever been to the fireside, they have like a square theater, so they're coming in from all sides. So they keep bringing in, you know, they have props and stuff. They're bringing like tables, and they have this giant wagon they're wheeling in. That's like, you know, how the guys are supposed to be delivering the newspapers to the newsboys. I mean, this wagon was like running me over every time. I mean, I took some major hits. So like toward, you know, halfway through the show, I'm like twisting sideways, and like, I mean, it doesn't matter how hard I try. I can only compress my body into such a space, right? You know, and then my wife well, actually, my wife and Pastor and his wife were all offering to switch seats with me, but I was too stubborn. So it's like, no, I'm fine.
I can do this.
Well, I'm going to have you know, cartilage replaced. That was my good knee too.
What?
What's this?
Was your
It was my good knee. Yeah, now it's like an even.
Cool now. It's almost as good as getting the other one fixed.
Yeah, my other knee is terrible. That's what happens when you play golf and twist and put all your weight on top of one leg, and your weight is substantial. If I weighed like $120 like you, I wouldn't have a problem. But you know, I weigh 3 times that, so 700 pounds. Using his math, I guess. I went to the doctor's office a couple of days ago. I'm going through the process. I don't think I'll end up getting it. I'm looking into like the bariatric surgery stuff. Mm-hmm. So you know they have like all the fat people set aside in like their own private room. Okay, so I go and I check into this. The chairs they have in their waiting room made me feel skinny.
Oh, really?
Okay. Oh my gosh, these chairs were like the size of park benches, but they were like meant to be for single people, right? You know, then when they put me on like the scales, like a truck scale, you had like treads and stuff on it. I'm like wondering like where do I stand on this thing? It was really like a boosting experience, and I felt skinny. Okay. It's like, well, why do you want? I mean, you know, 390. That's big, but not whoa. You know, craning out of your house big, but. Whew.
My dad's friend got that surgery, like completely, like restructured. Like he looked completely different, not like the same person.
Yeah, the biggest problem is keeping it all off.
Yeah, they had to they gave him like a diet that he has to stay on.
Oh yeah, you only have a 4-ounce stomach when it's done.
Yeah, he looks completely different.
I don't know if I'm willing to do that. I like the occasional party. I don't want to be that guy there who's eating 2 shrimp and saying I'm good. I've had my meal for the week. Yeah, but that was an interesting experience. I mean, I want to get some of those chairs from my house. That's usually why I have issues, like in the chairs at like theaters and stuff, if they're not quite wide enough. Because I actually have pretty short legs for my height. I'm almost 6'5", but I only have a 30-inch inseam for my pants. So I'm like 7 feet tall waist up. That's true. I've sat next to 7-footers, and I'm the same height as them sitting.
Okay.
Standing, they're
That makes sense.
Yeah, standing, they're a half a foot taller than me.
Imagine like a 10-foot Peter Lippman now.
Oh yeah. Then I'd be a much more average weight for my. I think I did the math. I think it's about a little over 12 feet, like 12'2", and I'd be average weight. It's perfect. So yeah, I'm working, I'm waiting for my growth spurt. I have one of those machines. I have an inversion table at home, and I'm pretty top heavy, so it's effectively that, right? Yeah. Okay, that's not us. This is us. The who? Which
Wait,
looked? What looked interesting?
It's
This?
pretty. It's different than what we've been
Oh yeah, this is C code. This is good
doing.
stuff.
See?
Oh man.
Interesting.
Well, that's 450.
Wow. Let's do that for them.
All right, so we've talked about some listy stuff. Now let's go ahead and you mentioned that we have not done a sort yet, correct? All right, so we've gone ahead and did we fill our list up with some random stuff? We haven't in this example. We had it in there before. So let's go ahead and let's gut most of this. Just in case I didn't do it, I'll go ahead and paste this on Slack so we have it. Is this code or text snippet? There. Oh, and by the way, make this final announcement. I put it up on all the channels on Slack. 5 p.m. today is the deadline for signing up for the hackathon, and that email should come to me because I'm putting together the final teams. Final teams are going to be released tomorrow morning. If you don't sign, remember the hackathon is required for all of my classes. So if you don't sign up by 5 p.m. today, then you're going to have the penalty assignment, which is a sucky assignment because it's going to be 12 hours of work, just like the folks who go to the hackathon have 12 hours of work. Yeah.
So I emailed Locklear and CC'd you. Does that work?
Yeah. If you've emailed Josh Locklear, whether you CC'd me or not, I got that list. All right. But if you haven't signed up yet because you've been procrastinating or whatever the reason is, 5 p.m. today is the deadline. If you email at 5:01, we're going to reject you and say you got a 12-hour homework assignment that you're going to hate. Got it? So, you're adults, make your choice, but procrastination should end at this point. 5 p.m. today, because I'm releasing teams tomorrow morning, so all the team leads will know who their teams are, and everybody will know who's on what team. So you guys can start talking about projects. I'll also mention project ideas in that email that I'll send out. Actually, I might put it up on Slack, but we'll see. But in any case, it's a disservice to other teams to add people at the last minute. So 5 p.m. is the cutoff. I think we currently have like 45 or 6 people signed up. So most people have signed up. So if you're one of those few that haven't, do so. And that is a week from tomorrow, from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. We'll feed you and torture you. Okay. And again, remember I mentioned it in here. There are going to be people at the hackathon from complete beginners who, even worse than some of the worst people, well, maybe not worse than you. But people who have never seen coding before, who just want to have an experience, to people who have been coding for a while. Even some former students are going to be coming and helping out as team leads. So I'm dividing teams up where you have some noobs on a team with some advanced people on a team, and the goal is everybody learning, not necessarily creating some amazing project. So you're not going to be sitting on the sidelines watching everybody else work while you're twiddling your thumbs. You'll learn how to do something. They'll put you on a project, and you'll suck at it or whatever, but you'll learn something. And in the end, you'll kind of see what the pieces of a program look like. Sound good? All right, so definitely take advantage of that. I think you'll end up liking it, and then maybe you'll come traveling with us for one of the 24-hour ones where we go halfway across the country for it. So those are always fun.
What are those?
We're still putting together a list for this next year. The ones we used to do was hosted by PayPal, and it was called Battle Hack, and they were awesome, and the food was legit.
Really?
But they canceled it because when PayPal, the company that actually did it was a company called Braintree, which was a PayPal company. And when they split as a company, I think it's still technically the same owner, but
Right.
Whatever. They did the business split. Braintree went in a different direction, decided not to do the thing anymore. But there's some pretty. Actually, I think is it my Slack picture? Yeah, my Slack picture is from that.
Oh, really? That's what that's from?
Yeah, so this is in Raleigh, North Carolina, and this is the trophies. These are the battle axes you compete for. And we did a fundraiser thing for it with not GoFundMe, but Kickstarter. We did a Kickstarter to afford all the gas and stuff because we took 14 students across the country in like a caravan type. Well, I mean, I flew, because I'm important. But I'm not sitting in a car for 14 hours. But the students did a caravan type thing. And we were $500 short with a minute left to go, and PayPal paid the rest of our Kickstarter. That was kind of, then they did a whole story on us. That was on the news and stuff like that there. So I don't know if you could tell, but this is actually one of our old students hiding behind me here, holding up the third battle axe.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh.
You maybe heard me reference him before. This is Amish back here.
That's all.
Okay.
Amish.
His name is Jordan Mather, but none of his classmates knew him as Jordan up to when he graduated. Because he sat right there in this class. Day one was given the name Amish because I said something about some TV show or something, and he said, I don't watch TV. So no TV must mean no electricity, must mean you're Amish. And it just stuck. He signed his test Amish. And now he works at Acuity, and they still call him Amish. Yep. In fact, I should see if I can get him to come to the hackathon, but that's him back there behind me there.
Were those axes real or are they?
Oh no, they're not sharpened, but they're not made of plastic.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I mean they're heavy.
Sweet.
Yeah. And these were for the regional qualifiers. So you get the axe, and then you get because they have these internationally, so they're all over the world. I think there's maybe 17 or 18 different battle hacks, and then the winners from each of them go to the world championships for competing for $100,000. So pretty exciting stuff. Unfortunately, we never made it to the finals. We had some pretty good showings, but as with all the hackathons we go to, we do the same thing as we do here. We separate the groups for learning, and that doesn't necessarily translate into having teams that win, but teams that learn. And you get a lot of good free food. So if you are interested in that, post about it on Slack, because I know there's some other folks in here who are interested, and because battle hacks are now gone, we need to look a little bit harder for some hackathons where we can travel to it. But I'm more than willing to help with the travel and drive or meet you there and do that stuff. In fact, it'd be really cool to do an international one. Or like an international hackathon tour. We should find if there's some in Mexico. We should do a road trip to Mexico and do a bunch of Mexican hackathons. Yeah, what could go wrong? Me, my crazy professor, and the 2 weeks in Mexico.
So we need to
And I should preface all this in saying what happens at hackathons stays at hackathons. Yeah. We usually have a pretty good time. Okay, so let's look at some sorting. So I'm going to go ahead and we're going to fill up a list. So we're going to say my list. We'll start this guy off as the empty list, and let's go ahead and give myself some numbers. So I'm going to say for I in range 0 to 100. So we'll give myself 100 random numbers. My list at bucket I is equal to, random dot next?
No, random dot randint.
Random.randint. And then you can give it a range. So I can say, give me values. What does that think? It's 0 to 1,000. And then after this, we'll go ahead and print out my list. So we'll have an empty list. We'll fill up bucket I. So what I'm doing here is kind of similar to this. My list.append. Random.randint. It'll have the same output. I prefer to directly index my list. I think this will work. So let's print this out here. Oh, it's a range for a randint. So 0 to 1,000. Oh no, it won't let me directly index, so we do have to do the mylist.append. You can directly index after it's filled. So mylist.append this stuff. All right, so there's our 100 random numbers between 0 and 1,000. Okay. Now, we can always do mylist. I think there's a sort function like that. All right. And there it is in order. But, unfortunately, we can't use that. We should really write our own sort.
Okay.
I mean, why use the tool that's just sitting there in the garage when we could build our own? Later on, you can use the built-in sort, but right now we're going to be building our own sorts, right? So let's look at how we can sort a list of stuff. So we're going to be looking at a sort called Insertion Sort. And actually, the way I teach Insertion Sort is a little bit different than what you will find like on Wikipedia. I think my way is more algorithmic, so I think it's better. Insertion Sort is not one of the faster sorts anyway, so you're not going to run into issues in the future. But so I kind of teach this hybrid between Insertion Sort and another sort called Bubble Sort. But just roll with me on this. All right, so assuming we have a list. So I'm actually going to draw a picture here. Get rid of this. Do I have previously defined pictures that I can just steal? No, whatever. All right, so we're going to have a 3, 7, a 1, a 5, and a 2. Now, what would be funny there is I would just kept dragging it on. A 7, like I'm like going down like 8, 9 rows. What is he doing? You just go to the end of class and just like, all right, we'll pick up from there next week, and then we come back on Monday, and I'm like, we have a 14, and just see how long we can keep that cooking, right? All right, so then underneath here, I'm going to go ahead and obviously those are red. And these are our indexes. So that's bucket 0, bucket 1, bucket 2, bucket 3, bucket 4. Okay. So now the goal is to put this list in order within itself. Okay. So the way we're going to do that is using this insertion sort algorithm. We're going to need a couple of variables. So we're going to need a variable called curStart. Well, you can call it whatever you want. And what we're going to do is we're going to have curStart. We'll start off pointing at position 1. Okay. We're going to need another variable called temp. And you'll see how we're going to use this in a few minutes. All right. And then we're going to have another variable called the follower. All right, and I'm going to go ahead.
Oh,
What happened? Something bad happened?
No, it's red on the far left side now.
Oh, I don't know. I think that must be a bug. Where's my emoji thing? Aha! That's the follower. Because the follower follows. All right. So what I just showed off there is the only good use for the little magic bar thing at the top of the newer MacBook Pros. Selecting emojis. Yeah, for that one use. That, and there's a Knight Rider app. You know, the Knight Rider show?
Yeah.
With Kit, the old car, you know, had like the light going across like the front of the thing, so it just does that back and forth and plays the music. Knight Rider has nothing on the show Airwolf. If you've never seen Airwolf, go on to Netflix and watch Airwolf. So Airwolf is from the 80s. And you know how back then you had so there were some shows where like Knight Rider, the guy had like a car that talked, like an artificial intelligence car named Kit. And then there was another show called Street Hawk where the guy was on a motorcycle. Okay, well, Airwolf, the guy had a helicopter. And all the bad guys had helicopters. Okay, but Airwolf was like a jet-powered, awesome helicopter. So it didn't make any sense. So what you see is the good guy, the hero, he would be chasing the bad guy up like the stairwell of some tall building. So the next thing you'd see the bad guy come out on the roof and like jump into some like modified, you know, news copter with missiles on it, right? Okay. And then the next thing you know, the Airwolf guy is taking off with Airwolf out of a volcano. How did he get to the volcano?
He ran.
It must have been in the.
Yeah, man, Airwolf had everything. Airwolf was awesome.
Marine helicopter.
So now that we've discussed it, there will be Airwolf questions on the final. Okay, so
Apparently, temp.
What if he is the helicopter?
where'd the volcano come from?
The building was disguised as a volcano. So like the volcano.
Okay, so why did the bad guy keep his news copter on top of the volcano?
Maybe he was trying to turn it into the volcano so it could blow up the city.
Okay.
Maybe the volcano.
That's why this show worked on kids. It's the same reason why my brother and I were enamored with, you know, when Hulk Hogan body slammed Andre the Giant in WrestleMania 1. Oh, my brother and I went nuts. Like, how is that even possible? All right, so we're going to start off. Kerr Start's going to point to bucket 1. And then we're going to ask the question, and well, we're also going to have follower pointing at the same place as Kerr Start. The hint I'll give you here is Kerr Start should only go forwards because we don't want to lose where our next starting place is in the list. All right, so this guy should only go forwards. So the follower will start off at the same place as Kerr Start currently is. And the follower will follow the current value towards the front of the list as long as it should move towards the front of the list. So we first ask the question, are we at the front of the list yet?
No.
We're not. We're at bucket 1. So that means there is a guy before me. So I ask the question then, should a 7 come before a 3? It should. 3 is less than 7, so we're done. Then we increment current start. We reset follower. We ask, are we at the bottom? Are we at the beginning of the list? No. That means we have somebody in front of us. Should a 1 come before a 7? It should. So we need to do a swap. So we're going to use temp. So we're going to say temp is equal to the 7. Then we can overwrite the 7. So really what we're saying temp is equal to the list at bucket follower minus 1. Then we overwrite follower minus 1 with bucket follower. Then we overwrite bucket follower with whatever was in temp. So temp allowed us to preserve that value after we overwrote it. Okay? So you want to see that little move again? We're pointing at follower. We know we need the 1 to get here, and we want the 7 to get here, so we need to swap these two dudes. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to preserve this 7. You could similarly preserve the 1 if you preferred to do that, but you got to preserve one of them and then overwrite that. So we're going to store the 7 inside of temp, which then allows us to overwrite that 7 with the 1, and then we can overwrite the 1 with that 7. So we've done our swap, and then what does the follower do? The follower follows. All right, then we ask, is follower at the beginning of the list? It's not. That means we definitely have somebody before us. So we'll ask the question again. Should a 1 come before a 3? 1's less than 3. So we need to do a swap. So we're going to preserve the 3 in temp. We'll overwrite the 3 with 1. Then we'll overwrite the 1 with whatever's in temp. And the follower follows. Are we at the beginning of the list? We are. So we do not have anybody before us. We have nobody to compare ourselves to, so we're done for this iteration. Then what do? We increment cur start, reset follower. We ask the question, is follower at the beginning of the list? It's not. So we definitely have a guy before us. Should a 5 come before a 7? It should. So we need to do a swap. So we'll preserve the 7 in temp. Then we'll overwrite the 7 with the 5. Then we'll overwrite the 5 with whatever's in temp. And then the follower follows. Are we at the beginning of the list? Nope. So that means we definitely have somebody before us. Should a 5 come before a 3? Nope. So we're done with this iteration. Increment cur start. Reset follower. Is follower at the beginning of the list? It's not. Should a 2 come before a 7? It should. So we need to do a swap. We'll preserve the 7. So I'll overwrite the 7 with the 7. Then we can overwrite the 7 with a 2. Then overwrite the 2 with whatever's in temp, which is a 7. The follower follows. Are we at the beginning of the list? Nope. So we definitely have somebody before us. Should a 2 come before a 5? Yep. So we need to do the swap. We'll preserve the 5. Overwrite the 5 with the 2. Overwrite the 2 with whatever's in temp. Follower follows. Are we at the beginning of the list? Nope. So we definitely have somebody before us. Should a 2 come before a 3? Yep. So we need to swap. We'll preserve the 3. Overwrite the 3 with our 2. Overwrite the 2 with whatever's in temp. Follower follows. Are we at the beginning of the list? Nope. So we definitely have somebody before us. Should a 2 come before a 1? Nope. So we're done. We've bubbled the 2 towards the beginning as far as we can. We increment cur start, and now we're off the end of our list. We're done, and our list is now sorted. Go ahead.
If you're using like hexadecimal, it would also work with like letters.
Not because it's hexadecimal. It'll work for letters because letters are represented as Unicode.
Oh, yeah.
So an A is less than a B.
Right.
Yeah, but I wouldn't worry about that right now. Just think about sorting numbers. Because what we're really focusing on right now is writing algorithms that match up to something. Okay? So what we're going to be doing is we're going to be creating a list and then walking through this list to sort it. We're going to have to write that algorithm. Now, let me remind you of a couple of things. I'll go ahead and I'll start our sort off here. So we'll write insertion sort. And this guy will take a list as a parameter. We're going to get rid of that mylist.sort. Not allowed to use that guy. Go ahead.
Which sort does the built-in one use?
Probably quicksort. I don't know that for sure, but it probably uses a sort called quicksort. So we'll print out mylist before we're sorting it. Then we're going to call insertion sort, passing it mylist. And then we'll print out mylist afterwards. All right. Now, what I'm going to do inside of an insertion sort right now, I'm not going to be doing sorting algorithm stuff because that's going to be our homework, but we're going to review a couple things. Now, when we're inside of insertion sort, LST is the same thing as mylist, right? Because I've passed mylist into the function called insertion sort. and that came in as a variable called LST. So if I were to print LST in here, let me just get rid of that guy right there. It'll print the contents of my list the second time. So my list is coming into this function as a parameter. I've named that parameter LST. I could have named it elephant if I wanted to. Okay, it didn't have to be called something that resembled the word list. You can name it whatever you want, but a list kind of makes sense because you're expecting it to pass in a list. Just to prove this here, you see we have our list displayed 2 times, right?
Yep.
All right, so there's your evidence that my list and elephant, same dude. But when we're inside of this function, we have to call it by the name elephant because my list is not in what's called the scope. So scope, we talk about the definition of something called scope. This is where a variable is accessible. All right. So inside of our, as far as we know right now, and our understanding of scope is going to grow over time. But the only variable that's in our scope right here is the variable called elephant. Okay, so a function has its own local scope. In my main program down here, I have a variable called myList. I have a variable named I. I lives and dies with this for loop. So I scope is local to that for loop, but is not available after the for loop. If I try to print out I here, actually this will be an interesting thing with, I'm going to not print out this, not print out, I'll have to print out that. I want to print out I. I should technically be 100th the last time, but it should fall out of scope at the end of this for loop, so it should print out a none here, I would think. No, it did keep the variable I. It's very interesting. In strongly typed languages, I would not have been available here anymore. So this line would have given us an error saying variable not found for I. But since we're in a loosely typed language, and once we define a variable, that variable is available, we were able to say print I here. Now, if I print out my list in here, this should not work. Are you serious that works? We're going to pretend like that works. That doesn't work. That is garbage. Oh, hold on. It actually won't work. I just haven't shown you how to is it name? It's something like that. Because we technically haven't been writing main methods up to this point. No, that's not. Let me look up the right. Oh, underscore name. I hate that. That is such a garbage language. All right, well, we're not teaching it that way because that is not the right way to teach programming. We don't have access to my list in here. Technically, the reason you do have access to it is because this whole thing is a single thing. If we had put it inside of its own library, this wouldn't be an issue. But the scope of elephant is local to insertion sort. Just because you happen to have access to my list in there because of the global nature of Python, that's not the way most programming languages work, so you probably shouldn't get used to using it that way. And I'm not going to introduce this main thing yet. That's an extra thing for us to consider right now. But what I really wanted to show here in our last minute was if I come into elephant here and I say elephant at bucket 0 is equal to negative 100. And I print out my list before insertion sort, pass it to insertion sort, then print it out again after insertion sort. Bucket 0 will have been permanently changed to be negative 100. So we do not need our function to return a value here. So this function is going to go through, and it's going to do all the sorting stuff that we just talked about, right? It's going to go through the insertion sort algorithm. And it will make all the changes we need to make to elephant. But we don't actually have to finally return it because my list and elephant point to the exact same place in memory. And those changes will be permanent changes. If I run this now, we see that bucket 0 used to be 484 before I passed it into insertion sort. After I passed it into insertion sort, it has now miraculously changed to negative 100. That change was a permanent change because it pointed to the same place in memory. Make sense? All right, so homework for Monday is take this as a starting point. I'll give you this code as a starting point, so you already have our insertion sort header there. And implement an insertion sort in here such that when I print out my list the second time, it's sorted. Make sense? Okay, but you cannot use the built-in sort function. So don't do something like elephant.sort up here. But that is the output you're going for. Okay, so if you can get that output, you're good. All right.
Using the sort function.
Yeah, but you can't use that sort function. Make sense? All right, questions, comments, concerns, bribes. Don't forget to sign up for the hackathon. If you have not done so, I suggest you do it right now. I will put this code up on Slack, and I'll put the assignment up on Blackboard. And I'll see everybody on
Monday.
Monday.